I still hear Jessica's voice sometimes, echoing in my head. That phone call, it was days after Michael's wedding that wasn't, and her words just hung in the air, heavy and impossible. "David," she said, her voice raw, "I tested positive for HIV." My blood ran cold. Positive for HIV, because of Michael. Because of what he did, because of the lies he built. It was a cruel, sickening twist, an outcome I never could have imagined when I decided to expose his secret. To understand why I did what I did, you have to go back further. My beautiful wife, Sarah, was in the final stages of a relentless cancer. She'd endured endless rounds of chemotherapy, fighting with a strength I can barely describe, but it wasn't working. Every day was a struggle for her, a slow, agonizing slide, and watching her suffer shattered my heart into a million pieces. My daughter, Lily, and I clung to every sliver of hope, praying for a miracle, for healing, for comfort. But deep down, we knew the truth. Hope was becoming a luxury we couldn't afford. The sadness was overwhelming, but we held each other tight, doing our best to keep her spirits up. The hardest part, though, was when Sarah started talking about what she wanted for me after she was gone. Every time she brought it up, my heart would just break all over again. She'd tell me to move on, to date, even to remarry someday. She worried about Lily and me, about our future without her. Even facing her own end, she was still thinking of our happiness. Hearing her say those things, it just made me so profoundly sad. I'd told her countless times she was the love of my life, my first real love since high school. The only woman I ever pictured growing old with. The thought of being with anyone else, especially dating someone younger like Michael used to joke, was unthinkable. My heart belonged to her. It still does. What made all this agony even worse was how my family reacted. My parents, Carol and Richard, acknowledged Sarah's illness was sad, but they seemed more focused on what came next. Carol even made comments about introducing me to her friend's single daughters, as if Sarah was already erased from the picture. And Michael, my brother, with Richard, would joke that once Sarah was gone, I'd finally be free and could join them for nights out again. Free of my mop phase, they called it. Like losing my wife was something I'd just bounce back from. Their comments were thoughtless, incredibly hurtful, and made me feel so utterly alone in my grief. When I shared that Sarah was encouraging me to move on, I expected empathy, maybe a quiet understanding. Instead, they seemed thrilled. Like it was an exciting opportunity for me to start fresh. Michael even offered to help me find girls, making a crude comment about young girls being all the rage. That was it. I snapped. I yelled at him, reminded him I wasn't like him, that my love for Sarah ran too deep for such casual disregard. But it got worse. Sarah's condition continued to decline. She was so frail. During a family visit, when we were all trying to keep things light, Michael just blurted it out, "Is it true, Sarah, that you want David to move on after you're gone?" I was stunned. In front of her, in her delicate state? It was incredibly inappropriate. Sarah, with that gentle, selfless smile she always had, quietly admitted it was true. She wanted Lily and me to have the best life, to keep living, to be happy. Even in her weakness, she was trying to ease my grief. And then Michael, utterly oblivious to the depth of that moment, turned it into a joke. He said he was tired of all these hospital visits and hoped my next wife would be the kind who could take me out and have some fun. I froze. My wife, in her gracious way, tried to lighten the mood, assuring him she hoped I'd find happiness. But I saw it, that flicker in her eyes, a subtle sadness. His words had landed deeper than she let on. He didn't stop. He went on about my good looks and build, how he'd definitely helped me move on with another woman. It was supposed to be funny. It wasn't. Sarah let out a soft laugh, probably to keep the peace. My heart broke for her. To hear people speak so lightly about her being replaced, while she was still right there, fighting, it was sickening. Later, when I confronted him alone, angry and hurt, he just brushed it off. "Just joking around," he said. And the kicker, Sarah didn't seem to have a problem with it. He completely missed the point. She didn't laugh because it was funny, she laughed because she's gracious. Because that's who she is, even when people don't deserve her kindness. The fact that he couldn't see that, couldn't understand how deeply his words cut, solidified for me just how insensitive he truly was. That evening, I found Sarah sitting alone, silent tears streaming down her face. She'd held it together for everyone else, but now, alone, the pain was raw. I sat beside her, apologizing for Michael's cruelty, for how thoughtless he'd been. But even then, through her tears, she tried to brush it off, saying he hadn't said anything wrong. But I saw the truth in her eyes, she was hurt. Not just by his words, but by the chilling reality that people were already talking about life without her, like she was fading before she was even gone. Lately, her tears became more frequent. And every time I saw her like that, I felt a stab of guilt. I was the one who shared her wishes with them, believing my family was a safe space. I never imagined they'd twist something so sacred into a joke. 2 months after that, Sarah passed away. The pain was unbearable, an emptiness that swallowed everything. Life became a struggle just to keep going. And then, my family's behavior intensified. The first week, they gave me space. The second, the pressure began. Carol kept coming over, saying Lily needed another mother figure. But Lily and I had talked, she never wanted anyone to replace her mom. This wasn't something that could be rushed, certainly not by them. My wife was the heart of our family. Losing her wasn't something we could get over quickly. Michael, especially, remained a source of immense pain. Even though I tried to avoid him, his crude jokes didn't stop. But then he crossed a line I never anticipated. He hired strippers for me. He lied, told me he and Richard wanted a simple guys' night, beer, video games, suggested I send Lily to Carol's for the night. I agreed, desperate for any distraction from the crushing grief. But it was all a setup. He'd invited them without asking me, a blatant disrespect to me, to Lily, and to Sarah's memory. I was shocked, deeply betrayed. How could he think this was appropriate? What made it worse was that Michael was in a serious relationship with Jessica, talking about marriage. Yet he was doing this in my house. He and Richard were practically beaming, talking about what a beautiful gift this was. I wasn't having fun. Michael had even brought a Polaroid camera, taking pictures with the women. I noticed how unnaturally close he was with one of them, Chloe, exchanging knowing looks, whispering. Later, he led her into the guest room, and they stayed there for hours. I didn't need to guess what they were doing. After the party, I discovered the full extent of his betrayal. Chloe was his ex-girlfriend. She gave him a lap dance. He had essentially cheated on Jessica, using my grief and my house as an excuse. When I confronted him, he dismissed it. These things happen, he said, and told me to stay out of his relationship. Richard, to my shock, also didn't seem concerned. It was like neither of them truly understood the gravity of his actions. And Carol? She knew about the guys' night, too. It felt orchestrated, making the betrayal sting even deeper. I knew then that I couldn't trust Michael, couldn't be associated with him anymore. A few months passed. Then Michael announced he was getting married. To Jessica. The same woman he'd cheated on. I never told her about that night, hoping he would confess. He never did. It was infuriating to see him moving forward as if nothing had happened. I distanced myself, our contact minimal, strained. Both Michael and Richard thought I was overreacting. But I didn't care what they thought. His betrayal, and my family's dismissal of it, had broken something fundamental in me. I decided then. I couldn't stop Jessica from marrying him, but I wouldn't be silent. She deserved to know. I planned to give her undeniable photo evidence, the Polaroids of Michael with his ex-stripper, right there in my house. It was a harsh truth, but one she had a right to see. After that, it was her choice. I hoped I was doing the right thing. The wedding day arrived. I felt like if I stayed silent any longer, I'd be complicit. I brought a beautiful bouquet of flowers for Jessica, but tucked discreetly inside was an envelope. In it, the photographs. The twist? I signed the envelope with Chloe's name. I asked a staff member to ensure Jessica received it and saw the envelope. The ceremony kept getting delayed. Jessica wasn't ready to walk down the aisle. The tension was palpable. Word got around that she'd seen the envelope, that the photos had shaken her. Then, Emily, Jessica's sister, pulled Michael aside. They went to a private room. When he came back, his face was a mix of anger and distress, even tears. He confronted me in front of everyone. "Did you sabotage my wedding?" he demanded, his voice raw. "Yes," I told him, looking him straight in the eyes. "I wanted your partner to know exactly the kind of man she was about to marry." That confession pushed him over the edge. He started yelling, his voice rising, venomous. "You just can't stand to see me happy, can you? Just because your wife died doesn't mean you get to ruin my life, too. This isn't about truth, it's about you being bitter and alone and trying to drag everyone down with you. You're just pathetic." His words stunned me. I couldn't believe he'd go that low. But I didn't flinch. "No," I said, my voice cold and steady. "My grief doesn't justify what you did, and it sure as hell doesn't excuse it. You cheated. You lied. And instead of owning up, you're turning it on me. I didn't ruin your wedding. You did that all on your own." He stepped menacingly close, invading my space, his face inches from mine, but I held my ground. Richard had to pull him away, trying to calm him. Eventually, Jessica came out. She informed everyone she wouldn't go through with the wedding. After everything, seeing the photographs, confronting the reality of who Michael truly was, she chose to walk away. The ceremony was called off. Guests whispered, uncomfortable. Michael stood there, humiliated and furious, with nothing left to say. For once, he had to face the consequences. My parents were furious with me. They didn't care about Michael's actions or the lies he'd built. All they saw was that I'd embarrassed the family. Carol wouldn't even look me in the eye. Richard pulled me aside, his voice colder than I'd ever heard. "You had no right. This wasn't your place." But it was a hard truth that had to be told. I hadn't set out to destroy anyone's day. I had only wanted to make sure someone else didn't walk blindly into a lifetime of lies. A few days later, Jessica called me. I wasn't sure why. But what she said left me stunned and heartbroken. She thanked me, genuinely. She said if I hadn't sent that envelope, she would have married Michael without ever knowing the truth. She confronted him with the photos, and he finally broke down, admitting everything, not just that night, but other incidents she'd suspected. After calling off the wedding, she'd gotten tested for sexually transmitted infections. That's when she told me she tested positive for HIV. Because of Michael. Because of him, she now has to be on medication for the rest of her life. I felt, and still feel, so incredibly sorry for her. What would you have done if you were me?